Alright. Stream looks reasonably stable, and all that jazz and stuff. So, welcome once again to Sound Goblin Gaming, presenting D&D and Hindsight, etc., etc. Today we have the Magic Item Compendium, and we're starting on this page because we are not just going to be looking at a bunch of magic items, but also talking about the design and what we can learn from 3.5, which is to some extent the theme of this series, but I mean, more specifically stated up front of this for this one. I'm Vincent.
I'm the Krampus.
Jeff.
Montegreen.
And I'm Vincent. So, one thing this edition of D&D is good at is highlighting exactly how far any element can go while still being functional. I'm going to use air quotation fingers for that. But at the same time, feeling like it needs to be, cleaned up, making it a kind of a veritable gold mine of ideas buried under several layers of clunk, bloat, and trap options trademark. In any case, and getting into it, the actual cover, which technically was on the last page, but shut up. So the Magic Item Compendium has some new stuff, but is mostly a collection of quite a lot of magic items from basically everywhere other than the Dungeon Master's Guide, including, let's see, all the stuff it mentions over here. Which basically includes a lot of stuff we've gone over, as well as some other stuff like the Epic Level Handbook and the Eberron campaign setting. I don't recall seeing anything in here from the Epic Level Handbook, but I also don't recall what magic items are in the Epic Level Handbook, because that was not really ever my focus whenever I looked at the Epic Level Handbook. It was usually the monster section, then ignore everything else.
Fair.
Also, they changed stuff here and there, though I didn't comb through this book to figure out what it is, and there's a few things that I did notice, but we'll go over them when we go over them. But before that, also, so I'm going to give you a brief history of 3.5 magic item presentation, just to show you exactly how much I love this book for unfucking this stupid. So this is the initial one up here. This is what you get from the DM's guide, where it is just, here's a fucking paragraph that has no separation whatsoever. We bolded the name and put some colons here and just keep reading, and maybe read the whole paragraph and you might figure out what we're doing. Cost is listed down here. Sometimes it's the cost to build, and sometimes it's the half cost or sometimes it's the cost to buy, whatever. So in Dungeon Master's Guide 2, they revised how magic items were done to take up the maximum amount of possible page space, and decided that, well, the good part is they did stuff like, here's description, which, okay, you can have some sentences here. Here's activation. Why the fuck? Why is this a sentence? What the fuck is this nonsense? And then effect, which is even more sentences. And, oh, by the way, if you... So, as of this book, this is the actual format they take. Something that, is fucking sensible. Where, here's the price of the item, right up here. Here, this is the price. Here's where it goes on the body. Here's the caster level for the damn thing. Auras for detect magic, and activation. Hey, it's a mental action. Wait, good. Then we describe stuff. Uses per day we'll usually put, like, in a separate sentence line down here. It's just so fucking... Why didn't you do this in the first place? But, nonetheless...
Hindsight is 2020.
Yes, I know, but... What annoys me is this is basically like, okay, this is basically spell formatting. You already had a working formula. Why didn't you just do this? But from this book on, this is how magic items are formatted. Not there's a ton of them past this, but nonetheless, it's nice to actually have. All right. So anyways, armor, which starts with going over the DMG material types, so that's not really much of anything other than just putting them here to have them here. That gets into basically armor properties. So armor is very weird when it comes to the plus properties in general, because mainly the way you actually get AC is your magic items. You have 4 slots that increase your AC. It's armor, shield if you're using a shield, amulet of natural armor, and a ring of deflection. If you're trying to maximize armor, you are basically, when you're building a character trying to maximize armor, you're basically increasing one of these or another, depending on which one costs you the least to get that extra +1 AC, basically. The cheapest two are armor and shield, basically. They are half price or even less when it comes. Deflection's really expensive, but they're like half price when it comes to, I think, the Amulet of Natural Armor. But inherently, like, whatever costs the least. Which is also the problem that you run into when it comes to armor in 3.5, is every single armor property basically has to compete with your two things. Your increase in AC and fortification, which I put up here. Because this is pretty much the only way to become crit immune, honestly, is this +5 bonus. And armor is cheap enough that past a certain wealth level, if you care about your AC, a +10 armor isn't the most expensive thing in the world. Or if you don't care about your AC, a +1 armor, because you have to have a minimum +1 to put any enchantments on it, that has heavy fortification, is just really tempting over anything else. It's also why you see, like with the balance line over here, a lot of armor properties actually are just flat money added to the armor. Because that was kind of their way of dancing around it, because if the pluses aren't going to be worth it over either just increasing the AC or gain fortification, you kind of have to... They basically have a high bar to clear, a much higher bar than it is with weapons, and we'll get to weapons when we get to the next chapter. But it's why when it comes to a lot of the armor properties, a lot more of them are actually just flat costs. And yeah, I put some examples here. And as far as magic armor design is concerned, it is kind of a good place if you have a game with magic items to put like flat properties that are going to just be inherent defensive bonuses. But at the same time, it's not necessary on armor per se. You could also have it as separate trinkets. It's more just whatever style and flavor you want for them. But yeah, balance here, for example, of stuff they actually did, like balance here, this is just a flat skill bonus thing that goes up to a +15. You'll also find this on clothing, magic items, and basically practically anything else. Beast Skin is just a lesser version of the wild property, but also has a less of a bonus. That's also the only other thing that can compete with fortification, simply because fortification doesn't matter if you don't have armor when you're in your wild shape form, so... Here's this thing that gives you armor in your wild shape form. Freedom I found interesting, but probably isn't worth the +5, although constant freedom of movement is nice. Twilight is kind of an okay way of cheating around arcane spell failure if you have, like, mithril armor. I think a good chunk of mithril armor leaves it at 10% or less, so the Twilight property would actually make it so it wouldn't have any spell failure at that point. Other things I actually found interesting, like healing right here was actually just straight a good property, and is, again, it's not one of the +1s, it's just like 8k. These are the ones I actually kind of like too as like armor properties, but they bear, and this will be a theme by the way for this entire book, they increase cognitive load. Things like this, where this is either a swift action to heal yourself, which is a whatever, or when you go to -1 or -9, or somewhere between -1 and -9, this triggers automatically and it just does the healing. So the first time you're knocked out, you basically aren't. And the greater version, which just heals a lot more. Which is, and does it twice per day. Which is a nice property, but at the same time, you have to remember you have it. In of itself, not a big deal if that's like the one magic item you have, but you also have to remember everything else your character does. And all your other magic items. And how many of those magic items do you have? That becomes a good question after a certain point. And do the magic items have other properties that they can do, and how much can your character do on their turn at a certain point? Let's see, other things here. Landing. Hey, you remember that thing about, like, diving and dealing damage based on the amount of feet you fell? This lets you ignore 60 feet of damage. You still fall, you just ignore 60 feet of damage. Which is funny, it's not necessarily good, but it is funny.
Definitely not good.
Hey, let me death from above, goddammit.
You can death from above just fine.
Various other things. A porter a couple times per day teleportation property was only like 20k, which isn't too bad. Menacing here. Oh yes, Menacing I put on here because this is unusual in the fact that here's a DC. It's 10 plus half your hit dice plus your charisma modifier. That is fucking weird for a magic item. Magic items almost always have a fixed DC whenever they have one effect or another, and it is almost always terrible. I wish they actually did this for all magic items, actually, where it was based on your actual fucking stats. Quickness here, which is almost a trap option, because it's 5k for a plus 5 enhancement bonus to your land speed. The only actual... That's not bad inherently, but the bigger issue here is everything else that adds your speed is also an enhancement bonus. If you have haste, it's an enhancement bonus. It's not going to stack. And let's see. Also speed here, which is 6k for swift action haste for three times per day. Which, granted, boots of haste. I forget what the exact name was for the haste boots, but those are like 10 times per day. And I think
boost of speed.
Boost of speed, yeah. It's like 10 times per day and is a free action, unless that somehow got changed, but I don't think it did.
Yeah, but they take up a different slot. You can fill with other things.
Yeah, which is true. You may have something else you want on your feet. Let's see. Also, specific armors and shields, or usually not worth your time to read, quite honestly, when it comes to these things. Partially because, like, modifying them is kind of subject to DM fiat, though they're easy enough to reverse engineer if you really want to. You can figure out what... If I wanted this to instead be a +1 wild breastplate to be a +1 wild full plate, it's subtract out the cost of a masterwork breastplate, add in the cost of a masterwork full plate, you're done.
This is a relic. It's important.
It is also a relic. And yes, they reprinted relics in here. This is the first one in this book. They didn't change the rules for relics, so basically you either have a feat or you have to worship the god that is attached to. In this case, is Obod High, one of the, like, what was it, fucking 3 nature gods that Greyhawk has. I forget. But you have to worship that god, and you either have to have the True Believer feat and enough hit dice, or you have to give up a 4th level divine spell slot. And there's practically one for every Greyhawk god, effectively. Other things I saw here that were kind of interesting, the bear skin and the hawk feather ones, which are kind of a collection of a bunch of things that go with them, including 3 times per day. Let's see, the bear skin one lets you grow claws, and the hawk one lets you fly, unsurprisingly. Good maneuverability too, but for 5 rounds. Also, it's a swift action to activate, and it has various activations as well, which is also kind of interesting. But yeah, they're not really worth coming over in too much detail, honestly. Let's see. And the first new thing in this book, augmentation crystals, whose rules are on page 221, so just a second. Okay. So these are crystals for weapons, armors, and shields, and each item can hold only 1 crystal, which you can attach or remove as a move action. There are least, lesser, and greater crystals. Something that doesn't say what rank it is specifically is the least crystal. Least has to attach to something that's at least masterwork. Lesser has to attach to something that's at least a +1 item, and greater has to attach to something that's at least a +3 item. And this must be an actual +3 bonus, not an effective bonus. So a +3 sword will work, but a +1 holy sword will not. In and of itself, I read this and went, what was the point? And then I actually read the crystals and went, oh, that was the point. Because they actually almost self-explain when I start going through them as to what idea they actually had with these augmentation crystals, rather than just because honestly, you could have just made these like flat costs on armor or weapons or whatever. But the idea is actually to make things that are legitimately supposed to be modular. You may have noticed it attaches and removes as a move action. That's entirely intentional. So, like, let's say you encounter a red dragon, you don't have anything on your shield, and you suddenly throw like a greater fire protection one on there, and now you have fire resistance 15 for a few, probably the whole fight, because he's not going to use fire that much.
I mean, it also gives you, the DM, access to, like, I want to give them XYZ thing as a, treasure.
Yeah.
But I don't have to now give them like a +1 fire resistant full plate. I can just be like, here's a fire resistance crystal if you want to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Along the same lines, here's the crystal adaptation. Hey, we're gonna do some planar traveling. Here's some lesser crystals adaptation. We don't have to fucking worry about the alignment nonsense. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Various little things like that. I actually do. It's like I just read them and I'm like, this is kind of very meh. And then I read what they actually built as the crystals. I'm like, okay, this is pretty much redeemed with how you built the crystals out. Because I don't expect like this much foresight in their design usually, because I've read enough of their stuff, but this was like a refreshing, like, oh, okay, you had a full concept going here. You didn't just say, hey, this would be a neat thing and let's start some top down design. It's like, oh, okay, you actually had like a niche and you filled it. That's great. But yeah, that's basically what the ones I even put here as an example are. It's like, they're good, just little silver bullet things like crystal bent sight here. Yeah, lets you avert your gaze from a gaze attack without suffering a mischance. So that's really specific, but it also only costs 500, so you can just have it and just shove it on your shield when you need it. Crystal of aquatic action. We're doing stuff in the water here. We'll buy one of these. Crystal of screening, which is also great. I always love things that let you ignore the various terrain rules that make sense but are also annoying.
Yep.
And Iron War Diamond, which is more on the generic side, but it's good to have something generic every once in a while. It's also kind of funny in the sense that it's like, okay, here's DR5 until it absorbs 50. Nothing says you can't just buy multiple of these gems and just actually switch
just
them
keep
out.
taking them off and put them back on.
Yeah. Okay. How did I forget the beginning of chapter thing? So chapter 2, magic weapons. Which I forgot, which for some reason I missed the page break for, but whatever, or the chapter intro for, but whatever, I'll just say this here. The primary magic item of most martial characters, to the point of it being one of the most important parts of building the character, even to the point where I could argue it should be built into the class itself. And unlike armor, the +1s get traded away for as much other things as possible, since it's a lot easier to get bonuses to hit outside of magic items. Like, getting pluses to your AC from, like, classes, race, etc. There are so many fixed... There are only so many things. They're fairly fixed. Like, a monk gets to add one stat to his AC when not using armor specifically. It's stuff like that. Or you get, like, the conditional stuff, like dwarves gain a bonus to AC versus... And gnomes, I think, gain a bonus to AC versus giants, which is great if you're in a giant campaign, and otherwise occasionally comes up if you remember it. But, yeah. Pluses to hit are way more common when it comes to just various class abilities, spells, etc., feats. Same with pluses to damage, but that's a different matter entirely. So trading away like a little bonus to hit for what is worth usually a lot more damage is generally a good trade when it comes to magic items. At a high enough wealth level, having a +1 sword with +9 equivalent bonus of various properties is not kind of unheard of in 3.5. This changes when you get to Pathfinder, because Pathfinder actually did something to balance that out a little bit better, but we'll get to that when we get to Pathfinder. Also various other little things in my notes. When it comes to just stuff you throw on weapons, there's a lot of stuff that is actually pretty easy and low on like adding dice to weapons is always nice in general, because dice are low cognitive load and fun. As a matter of fact, dice are fun. Just if you're a game designer, dice are fun. Just remember this. This is a good thing for just adding little features. But yeah. As far as the stuff I pulled aside here, and you'll notice all of the... I could even fit this on a full spread, so there's actually more past this, but yeah, all these are just pluses to weapons. The weapons have just a ton of pluses, almost no actual flat cost. They're literally the inverse of armor. Because like Berserking here, the +1 is whenever you're raging, which is the goal of Barbarian, to be raging in every round of combat anyways, you do an extra D8 damage. Blood feeding here was actually an interesting +1 property, so every time you hit, you gain a blood point. You can store up to 10 of them. Whenever you deal damage... Huh? Go ahead.
Sorry, never mind. I was going to say, it's always the golden rule, A, B, R. I can't read.
Indeed. But yeah. But blood feeding here. When you deal damage, instead of gaining a blood point, you can spend up to 5 of them and you get 2 points of damage per point. Note that when you deal damage as an unusual trigger in 3.5, usually you have to spend this crap before you make an attack roll. And since you could do this when you deal damage, you can do this when you crit. So if you're actually doing a crit fishing build, every point here is actually worth like 4 points of damage. That you can burst out whenever you need it. Whether that's worth it or not, I don't know, but it would be fun. And again, the weapon sometimes is almost a character build, or a part of building a character in and of itself, and can make for a interesting and varied combat. Just from like that fucking property. If you're doing like a crit fishing build with this, it can actually be fairly fun. Bloodstone here, from what I remember, this was... yes. This is spell storings, but specifically for Vampiric Touch. Spell storing lets you store up to a level 3 spell, any level 3 spell. This one is specifically Vampiric Touch only, but it automatically empowers it, so it's a decent trade-off. Notably, Vampiric Touch is on the Duskblade list, so it's actually just a good property for them. And the idea is when you hit with your weapon, you can use the spell that's stored in it to deliver whatever spell it is. You have to put the spell back in, but yeah. Let's see, Blur Strike here. +2 was a bit harsh, but this is a swift action to make whatever you're attacking flat-footed, and it has like 10 rounds per day. You can use it 10 times per day, which is not a bad property actually for a rogue. Fairly easy to get sneak attack. Charging, +1 bonus for 2d6 damage whenever you charge, which makes that one... So if you make a stupid Crusader that does nothing but charge, because they do have White Raven as one of their disciplines, and they do have a decent... There is a I think level 6 is where they get like the alignment charging one as well, so you could just make a Crusader that does nothing but charge. You could make something silly with this.
Put it on a Cavalier Lance.
You could put it on a Cavalier Lance. It doesn't multiply out because that's not how those work, or not how extra dice work, unfortunately, but you're still doing a lot of charging, so it's still a good +1 property. Speaking of a decent property, Collision is a +2, and I actually kind of put it here next to Consumptive to show exactly why. So this is, as a +2, this is a flat 5 damage. There are a lot of +1s that are the base +1 property in the DM's guide is, or the 4 of them anyways, are 3 of them, I forget. Yeah, I think it was 3 of them because Acid was later for some stupid reason. But it's basically a +1 to gain a d6 of an element. The problem with elements is there's a decent amount of resistances to elements, various elements scattered throughout monsters. Collision is nothing. There is no damage type, so it's not going to be resisted by anything. It will just add 5 damage. And since it's a flat bonus, it actually multiplies with crits. And I put Consumptive here to show exactly how much more narrow it could be, because, like, it has a +2 bonus for a d8 versus living targets, which, granted, it's also typeless damage, but it only applies versus living things. So it's like, looking at the two, which one of these would you rather have? A d8 on average is even below 5 in the first place, so... let's see. Yeah, Corrosive here, this is the Acid one. For some reason was not in the base book. Notably, you can turn this on as a standard action. It just stays on. You don't have to... yeah, it doesn't harm you as long as you wield the weapon. Persists until you speak a second command word. Turn it off. I think this will technically erode your sheath if you sheath it. Assuming it doesn't have enough hardness to not care. Depending on how much your DM cares. Let's see. Deadly Precision's a decent +1 if you're doing nothing but sneak attack damage, because just for d6 sneak attack damage. Defensive Surge here, which... Let's see, this is the... yeah, that's right. Successfully make a melee attack when you're using combat expertise or fighting defensively. Gain +2 AC for, until the start of your next turn. Usable number of times equal 1 plus bonus. Okay AC bonus, but I think I put that one on the other page. Let's see. Divine Wrath here. Oh, yes. You can spend a turn attempt to do an extra d6 points of damage to undead or... Oh, wait. D6 points of damage per point of charisma bonus you possess on your next attack against an undead. It's somewhat... it's narrow on the targets, but that can be a lot of d6s, depending on what your charisma bonus is. Ethereal Reaver here, +3. Such a weapon allows you to see invisible creatures, but just see invis for a +3 bonus, which it's expensive, but at the same time, it doesn't actually take up a slot, and yeah, you could put this +3 bonus on the weapon you're primarily attacking with, or you can put it on this gauntlet that you're holding the weapon with, or on these armor spikes. That's the funny thing about passive bonuses like this. You have to be wielding the weapon, but it doesn't mean you can't just put it on something that is not necessarily the weapon you're attacking with. Let's see. Energy Surge here, which is actually kind of a stand-in. So, in the Dungeon Master's Guide 2, one of the few things that was of note in there were the basically all the surge abilities, which had a number of uses per day, which was basically 1+1 of your stats. It was usually either con or charisma. They were swift actions that just added. I think at least they upped it to 3d6 for this, but they were swift actions that added 2d6 of element or something or another. That was the gist of them. So in this book, they're all present, but they all got revised to actually be synergy +1s. So the annoying part about synergies is they basically have a prerequisite for the energy surge. Synergy is you have to have one of the energy types on the weapon, basically. So you have to have that, which you might not necessarily have even wanted, because for the surges you didn't actually have to have it didn't have a synergy component. You didn't actually have to have the energy type. So this is a nerf which I kind of disagree with, because it's not like the energy surges were great in the first place, or Holy Surge, because they did that for Holy Surge as well. You have to have Holy on it, and then it's an extra +1 in order to, a few times per day, add some extra damage to evil things, which at the very least, that one's kind of worth the +1 bonus if you have a high enough, I believe, charisma stat, but it's still, in comparison to, like, paying 2k for it, a +1 bonus is painfully more expensive. Like, the first +1 bonus, if you just have a +1 weapon, a +1 bonus costs you 6k, and it goes up from there progressively. Let's see. Ghost Strike synergy bonus, which, granted this has to be on Ghost Touch. Yes, that's why I put this one here. Negative, has to be on Ghost Touch. Positive, you can sneak attack undead. You just straight up can sneak attack undead if you have a Ghost Strike weapon. This is kind of worth it for... This actually pretty much solves the Rogue and Undead campaign by itself, actually. Let's see. Hunting here increases weapon damage versus favorite enemies. Impact, which is just keen for bludgeoning weapons. I'm actually more surprised I hadn't seen it until now. I knew this existed, but I don't remember where it was from in the first place, and considering we've gone over all these books. Let's see. Also, Magebane was reprinted here, but they actually toned it down. It no longer applies to things that have spell-like abilities that happen to be arcane, which is most spell-like abilities.
All of them?
Yeah.
For the most part?
Yeah. Because basically, if it appears on the Sorcerer Wizard list, it's arcane by default. Which is the fucking vast majority of spells that aren't like cures. But yeah, this one, they actually do have to be arcane spellcasters or use invocations. They actually got rid of the, so it's more in line with the other Banes. Let's see. Mighty Smiting here. That's right. +1 bonus. It's +2 to attack and damage when you smite. Gives you an additional use of smite. So this is one of the few ones that is actually kind of way better if you're playing Pathfinder 1st Edition. Specifically. Because Pathfinder 1st Edition changes Smite to not just apply to one attack. Smite just applies to fuck that guy.
Attacks that round.
No.
No, that's right. It's a target.
It's a target until they're dead. It is fuck that guy in particular. Like Psychic here, which is a trap option. So it's a +2 bonus. which means being a weapon property, obviously you have to have a +1 bonus. So for this to be better than actually having a +3 bonus on your weapon, which is what it would cost in the first place, you actually have to have 80 power points in your reserve just to get it to +4. Because this overlaps, it doesn't stack with the actual base enhancement bonus on the weapon. Yeah, literally says it right there. That's, especially for any of the melee characters, kind of a painful amount to do. And once, this is how much you have, this isn't like your cap, this is your current amount, so as you spend your power points, it just goes down. So unless you're going to constantly have 130 or more power points or something, this is hardly worth a damn. But like, almost looks good on paper, but in practice, this just isn't good. It's like, I would say you could probably use it at low levels, but at low levels, you're not going to have the power points for this to be good. At higher levels, you could just put a +5 enhancement on the weapon for all it matters. Let's see. Our little things here. Psychokinetic, which is a +1 for a D4 force damage. Which honestly is generally worth it over a D4 energy damage, because nothing fucking resists force. Quick loading, another attempt to make crossbows good. They're still not good. Warning, one of those great probably one of the best +1 bonuses to put on your armor spikes, or that gauntlet you have on your hand coincidentally. Or if you're a spellcaster and don't actually swing your weapon, because it's just a +5 insight bonus to initiative checks. I feel like we're getting away with what this is supposed to do.
Now would that work on your armor spikes or your gauntlet? Technically, it requires it to be held.
Oh, you're right.
Not wielded.
Fair enough. You do have to hold this. It's still on. I don't know. Pick whatever the fuck a wizard has in his hand.
Staff, dagger, a bit of sand.
Here's my mastercrafted sand that I've had enchanted it up to.
I've taken pocket
Plus
sands
one
to a whole new
morning
level.
pocket sand.
Krampus, you were saying?
I've taken pocket sand to a whole new level. This took me 30 years of my life.
Let's see. Screaming here, which is the psychokinetic equivalent for sonic damage, which I guess is slightly worse, because, I don't know, you might fight a Slotty at some point. Your DM really likes toads. Spell Strike, which if the text wasn't literally here and I asked you to guess what Spell Strike does, you would not fucking guess it at all. Because if it allows you as a free action every round to transfer
striking.
Yeah, some or all of your freaking enhancement bonus to your saving throws for spells or spell likes. This also goes with warning, by the way, if you just want a higher bonus on your saves versus spells and spell-like abilities, and you don't actually attack with weapons anyways. Or you have a free hand for this weapon over here, because, I don't know, you're a Thrycreen. And you're not actually doing, like...
Pay a fortune rather than buying a Cloak of Resistance?
Yeah, both. At a certain point, I'm going overkill in my saves.
Are you? It's still an enhancement bonus.
Well, Cloak is a resistance bonus. This would stack with Cloak.
I'm pretty sure Cloak of Resistance is an enhancement bonus to your saves.
No, it's a resistance bonus.
Googling.
DMG. Technically, there's a section in this book I could go for it, but
It is a resistance bonus.
Yep.
Well, fair enough.
I mean, you're correct. This is fucking expensive as hell to do that, but it's
Yes.
because this would be a +6 magic item at minimum, which is 72 grand. I think a full +5 for a +5 bonus. A +5 cloak I think is like 15k. Let's see. Vampire Cure, which is also worse than Impact, but kind of interesting in the sense that it's drains the hit points instead, so it actually heals you for D6 versus living things, which is kind of neat, especially for somebody who's specifically going to be in the melee. They were kind of smart about this and did it as melee and not so you can put this on a bow, which will make more attacks than any other weapon type.
Yep.
Also aquatic, which I appreciate the fact that it's just 2k to just ignore attacking with weapons underwater. Which is great, because I don't have to look up the rules for attacking with weapons underwater. Illuminating, which is just 500 to make your weapon glow with light, which is absolutely sometimes sort of worth it. I think the only issue here is you can't turn it on or off, so you always have the light on. Prismatic Burst, which I actually found interesting, because it's one of we've gotten the flat cost ones. There were a few of them that were like this. Prismatic Burst was easily the most interesting one, because this just straight up when you crit, you Prismatic Spray them. It's the low DC for Prismatic Spray, but that's still cute as hell, and if you're on a crit fishing build, you can get, like... And there's no limit to the number of times this happens, this is just every time you crit. It just casts Prismatic Spray on the target. The DC is only 20, but still.
Hey, the flat damage results are still do save for half, so...
Yeah, flat damage rolls save for half.
Like, rolling a 3 is still an extra 40 damage, even if they pass.
Yeah. And the, like, turn to zone or sent to another plane, ones do auto-fail in this edition.
Yeah,
so...
it is funny when it happens.
Yeah, it is funny when it happens. And yeah, it's a flat 30k, so it's not eating up any of the other bonuses on it, per se. Only thing about...
Like, half the effects on there still do something even on the save, so...
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, even the poison one is kills or takes a d6 con damage, which can be potentially fairly good anyways.
Yep.
Let's see. Yeah, and like the magic armor, there's specific magic weapons. Not going to go too much into detail on them because they're on the same. They live on basically the same spectrum as the specific armors. As they're fine, but they're not generally worth caring about in comparison to just building your own weapon. Also, just building your own weapon is kind of fun, if I'm going to be honest. It is, like, especially considering exactly how dry a fighter is, even with all the feats, especially if you're, like, piling them towards damage. Like, the most creative thing you're doing entirely with that character build probably is building your weapon. And that's the silliest part of it.
I only have one question for this page.
Huh.
Why did they make multiple Skylands named weapons?
Multiple Skylance named weapons.
There's Forceful Skylance, the Blazing Skylance.
That's a legitimate question.
Why can't we just have elegance like Death Spike? The spike that kills people.
Does the spike kill people?
I presume the spike kills people.
I mean, Death Graveyard doesn't kill people.
It's fair. Death
Brings them
Graveyard
back to
doesn't
life.
kill people. The bladed crossbow, or the best thing you can do for it is use it as a +1 battle axe.
Okay. Also for reference, because I forgot to write this part down, but I did find it interesting. Weapon properties start on page 28 and end on page 46 in this book.
Damn.
Well,
I did just give the highlights. just so you know. There are a lot of weapon properties. There are still good weapon properties I did not put on that list. Let's see. Yep, there's a Blazing Skylance. 3 times per day. This +1 lance. 15-foot cone. 5d4 damage. Full DC 13 reflex save for half. Let's see. Forceful Skylance. Also +1 lance. Magic Missile. 3 times per day. 3 targets. So higher cast of Magic Missile, basically.
Did they sneak any more Skylances in there we just don't see?
Let me go through.
I'm just confused that there's 2 of them.
I'm confused there's 2 of them. I'm also confused that I happen to, like... I think I just happened to grab the 2 on accident. I do not see any other Skylances, no. Okay. Yeah, I think it is just those 2. I was just looking for pictures specifically. More than anything else, just to give visuals. Especially when it's coming off of these pages, which don't really give visuals, but... Yeah, I'm more confounded by the fact there are Skylances, period. What the hell's a Skylance?
Good question.
Feels like a Saturday morning cartoon group. Tune in for the Sky Lances.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah.
Blazing Skylance. Forceful Skylance.
Join Lance and his team of heroes.
Ah, the Skylances. Like riding giant eagles or something.
Yeah, exactly. They're riding giant eagles. They're like fighting with lances. Their enemy is a guy who uses a bow who has no honor. His name is Bowyer.
Everything's designed to be
He has a
extremely
skull
toyetic.
somewhere on his armor. Yeah. It's designed to be extremely toyetic. This is like an 80s cartoon at best.
Yeah, we made each of their 5 bird mounts slightly different to make you buy 5 toys.
Yep.
Their mascot is like a giant, like cartoon mosquito who has a lance for a nose. He's always getting into wacky hijinks. I like this. This shouldn't exist, but I like this.
If only it was the 80s, we could pitch this to someone.
I was gonna say, time to write this all out and go back in time.
This is like if Hasbro made the Burn series.
Yeah. Okay, weapon augment crystals, same idea as before. Least have to be on masterwork, plus lessers have to be on +1s, graders have to be on +3s, which means graders have a cost when it comes to weapons. This wouldn't be a cost when it comes to armors, because you usually enchant armors up for the AC bonus, but that's not as much on the weapons, so that at least kind of makes it interesting. But yeah, the idea here is kind of the same. It's stuff that is more conditional for you to attach, and for some reason adamantite weaponry, because the DM really likes this under your weapons. I'm going to increase the hardness, goddammit. Let's see, what else I have here? Oh yes, Energy Assault was actually interesting when it came to the greater bonuses, because it's the let's do elemental damage, which actually kind of works a lot better with crystals. They can attach and unattach, because if you know what you're fighting, you can just put the one on there that's actually going to do the d6 damage of the type that's going to work. But also the greater one, in addition to doing that, does a specific extra effect. Like the acid one was actually kind of interesting, because it's just straight up -1 AC for the round, which is neat. It's probably the best of these, but might or might not be better than Dazzled, but I don't think Dazzled had a -1 AC. I think it was just like -1 to hit. Fire burns around later. Various little things like that. Oh yes, Arcane Steel here, which is the Duskblade Crystal, because this specifically applies yeah, +1 insight bonus on your weapon damage roll when delivering a spell or spell-like ability through the weapon. Then +1 on the attack roll, and then increase the DC by 1. It's like, okay, this applies to like 1 class, unless you really like your spell storing weapons, and 2 classes technically, because the spell sword also does basically the same thing. But not anywhere, well, I guess about as often as a Duskblade would, hypothetically. Let's see. Illumination here, another cheap hands-free light source. Also, you can put it on like an unused weapon or spell, that spell strike sword or that spell strike dagger that the wizard happens to have. Throw a crystal of illumination on it, so he's a light source. Also of note, Demolition, Fiend Slaying, and True Death are all fairly good for the system, and particularly because, yeah, here's one that applies to constructs, here's one that applies to evil outsiders, and here's one that applies to undead. So instead of making a weapon that is specifically for those targets, it's like, okay, here's just a gem that you can attach because you know you're dealing with them. Especially since, again, the True Strike one will also let you just deal over sneak attack damage to undead as if they were living creatures. And the lesser one is Ghost Touch, so you don't even need a Ghost Touch weapon. That's just way better than having a Ghost Touch weapon, as a matter of fact. Because it's just a 5k, which is cheaper than a Ghost Touch weapon, and my weapon's now Ghost Touch. Okay. And clothing, or all of the other stuff, and probably both the best and worst part of the magic items. On the one hand, you have neat little trinket effects that are outside of the norm for your class or race. It's the accented spice that can make a character feel unique. On the other side, the math. In other words, you freaking...
Look, if you don't like math, you're playing the wrong system.
True, but I mean, like, the math itself takes up a decent chunk of what you're actually putting on. And also, yeah, the slots.
Yep.
Now, thankfully, a lot of these... in a way, a lot of these slots are being taken up by passive numbers that tangentially advance your character, which is also its own problem, actually. But especially if it's one of those things that kind of like creates a level of system mastery that I'm not too fond of. If you don't know that a Cloak of Resistance is a really, really, really good idea, slash whatever else of resistance, there's Vest of Resistance, and this book actually lets you put it in other places as well, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, like, that's one of the slots. Another one of the slots is going to be whatever your primary stat is. You're going to want to have that up to a +6 at some point, usually, but that's going to take up one of the slots. And then you have all these other slots still. And that's actually a lie, because there's also other nonsense that we'll get to later. But, But the other issue, and it kind of gets partially solved in this book as well, is if you have a magic item that you really like, that's in a slot, but that slot also happens to be like one of your important items, like if you're a clerk and you have a throat item that you want to use, that's also where the Periopt Wisdom comes in, so you can either have your like enhancement bonus to wisdom, or you can have that neat item with that effect you want. Your choice. But yeah. On the other hand, the more things you start filling out with the slot, the more of a cognitive load you're actually putting on yourself. You are kind of doing it to yourself because this is how you're spending your money for your magic items. But at a certain point, you also just have that much money to spend on magic items. When it comes to like even mid-level character building, you start to... It's not unfathomable to start to run out of stuff to actually buy. Like, you can throw a decent amount of them into the passive bonuses, and you probably will, just because that's the easiest way of doing it. But there are a lot of neat effects when it comes to these magic items, and it is kind of an opt-in system for it, but... yeah, I don't know exactly where I land on it.
Well, okay, I also have an opinion on this to, get
Yeah.
away from jokes about Lance and his wonderful cartoon.
Yes.
So
I
have played a lot of played a lot of D&D with this group and with a couple others, mostly with friend of the channel and longtime friend of myself, Bograt. And there's generally been, and I do not say this as a negative at all when I say this, there are always been people in the group, like myself, who don't have a good grasp on the system, and there's people in the group like, say, Shiv or Vince or Bograt, who I swear just read the books for fun and memorize them.
Yeah.
And that's not a negative. They obviously like D&D, they like, role-playing game systems in general, and they have a head for numbers and calculations and figures. But we're playing a 5th ed campaign right now, and with the acknowledgement that 5th ed has greatly streamlined things from what we're looking at in D&D and Hindsight, I still have to double and triple check my stuff on things that I do every week, just because there's timing triggers, there's wording specifications. D&D is already a game that asks you to remember a lot of really fiddly keywords and phrases and rules. So when you take that system that already has that baked into its very core, and then you start adding things like a bunch of magic items on top of it for conditional bonuses and stuff like that, Shiv is correct that a part of it is on the player. I need to remember that I have these things. I need to remember that I have a magic item that, I'm going to be honest, it has been 5 sessions since I've used because I keep trying to remind myself that I have that item and I forget every week.
There's a reason I tend to... Yeah. There's a reason I tend to actually build my own character sheets, because sometimes I will just okay, here's all this stuff I have to remember. All in this one spot.
A cheat sheet.
Yeah, basically, here's a cheat sheet of all the activated stuff, but still.
Yeah, and like I said, I readily admit that part of this is on the player. You're playing D&D, you're getting into this, you're agreeing to wade into all of these rules. But at a certain point, I think it's worth inspecting what you're doing in-game and seeing whether or not, like Vince put it very nicely, the cognitive load is worth whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and everyone's cognitive load is kind of going to be different, which is why I kind of do sort of like the optional buy-in of this system, because the amount of stuff you can actually have that has activated abilities and extra little bits of stuff and tricky things you can do in a round that are actually worth buying, because a lot of them aren't, but the amount that is not insignificant. You can give yourself a ton of different actions and reactions and whatnot, but you don't have to. And you can just focus strictly on a bunch of the plus bonuses, and it's all just passive stuff that increase numbers and make number better. And that's not wrong either.
And I will put another thing out there. This is just my personal take on this. It is my biased to hell perception of D&D. I love it, but it's a lot for my tiny brain to keep track of at once.
But yeah, I do a lot of I do a lot of staring at systems and analysis of stuff, and I'll be honest, with my character in the current D&D campaign, I still forget shit because it's been a week. It's really what it all comes down to is when you play a game just once a week, you're not going to remember everything.
Also, didn't have that between last time you played was a month as well.
That doesn't help either. Oh yeah,
between events and being sick. Yep.
Also, and one more thing, deflecting attacks is a D10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your monk level. We forget this every week.
We do often have to relook it up.
Yeah. We remember that we remember that Krampus has this ability on his monk. But I'll be damned if I remember what it is.
In general, no matter what game you're playing, as your characters gain more and more things they can do, it's never a bad idea to just have a cheat sheet available for you. So for instance, since Krampus, you said you're having trouble remembering certain things, just make a quick little Google Doc or page or something or notepad you can pull up that's just here's what I can do as a basic action, here's what I can do as a swift action, here's trinkety things I can do. And then when you're getting to your turn, you can be looking at that and go, okay, I have a swift action, or I have a bonus action and a move and a attack action each round. What do I have available for my character, and what other little things do I have available?
Yeah.
That is true. And I absolutely am going to take you up on that suggestion to make a little cheat sheet, just so it's easier for my brain to remember.
Yep.
But compare it to another system that I have a lot of experience in is New World of Darkness. Now, we could do a whole nother retrospective on the New World of Darkness, and God help me, I might at some point as a threat.
I mean, it is on my list, but it's deep on my list. It's there's other things I'd have to go over first, like Old World of Darkness.
Yeah, but comparatively, the math for given abilities is a lot easier. It is 2 skills, usually trait like strength or intelligence or something, and then a skill like driving or firearms or things like that. And even the additional feats and supernatural things that you can do usually are just your supernatural thing, your gnosis, your blood whatever that the vampires get, I forget. and some other trait. And it's usually just for every pip you have, add 1 dice. Roll these dice. Are the dice more complicated, or is rolling the dice more complicated in World of Darkness than in D&D? Yes. But at least, and again, my personal perception, I feel like World of Darkness, it is easier for me to understand and remember all the things my character can do than in D&D, where I have to memorize algebraic formulae for a lot of basic stuff.
It's usually why I just write out the end result
You
of
should
everything.
never have to learn to algebraic formulae to do things.
Yeah.
For most cases. Simple addition and pretty much that is all you really need in most cases.
Even less so, it's usually I have everything written out in advance. Now 3.5 is kind of terrible for that because sometimes it would just fucking throw conditional nonsense on you left and right.
I mean,
Depending on
3.5
what you're
is
doing.
definitely worse off than
But
5th,
yeah.
5th ed, where it's going to be, you're going to know what your attack bonus is. It's not really going to change.
Yeah, your attack bonus is the same thing. Your DCs are going to be the DCs for your abilities are going to be the exact same thing. It doesn't change from.
And you're just going to get
round
like
to round.
advantage or disadvantage thrown at you as opposed to like stacking modifiers.
Yeah. Which is the great part of advantage and disadvantage because it is so simple and just stacking modifiers gets very annoying after a while. It's especially when we start doing stat damage because okay, no, that can fuck right off. That dying in noble death is one of my favorite things about 5th edition. The only thing that could have made it better is if they killed the stats themselves. But that's a different rant for a different time.
That's an entirely different system.
Yeah, it is, but yeah. In any case, moving into this chapter proper. So here are the magic items I pulled aside. And these are more just examples of kind of how the clothing magic items are structured. So again, slot it goes on, blah blah blah. This one is neat because immediate action to heal yourself or something within 30 feet. Can use this to actually try and can also be used to try and prevent the death of someone that got to an 8 of 9 or higher. And this would have been neat if it actually scaled, but this is like the only one, which is the only annoyance of it. Amulet of Fortune Prevailing here, which is actually a cheap amulet that gives a roll to a saving throw, which is great. Especially like 5k for a reroll in this in 3.5 where rerolls usually cost you an arm and a leg. That's fucking fairly good. The only annoyance is it's on your throat slot, and there's a million things that can be for your throat slot. It's amulet. It's like amulet of natural armor and perioptic wisdom both go on the throat slot as well. So when it comes to like the flat plus bonuses, let's see, other things here. Amulet of Retributive Healing here. Activate this. Next effect you use before the... that's right. This lets you actually heal yourself while you're healing others, which is actually great for a healer, because sometimes that's actually an issue. By the way, the correct answer is heal yourself first. If your choice is to heal yourself or someone else, because you're both at critical hit points, heal yourself first, because when you're knocked out, you can't heal the other guy anyways. Let's see. Amulet of Tears here, which is my stand-in just for swift or for charge items, because this is swift and you can use a certain number of charges. It's more efficient to get 12 temporary hit points 3 times, but sometimes you just need a bunch of temporary hit points to not get knocked out. It is most efficient to just not be thrown on the fucking ground to rain out hit points in the first place. So, Angel Helm here, which is very much a top-down designed item, where it's like, what properties can we throw on something called an Angel Helm? Your weapons are good aligned. You can cast these spells, and it doesn't work on non-good things. Let's see. Bracers of Great Collision, which are, let's see. Critical hits with bludgeoning weapon, deals extra damage. Just pretty much what it sounds like actually on that one. But yeah, just other ways of upping your damage that don't actually go on the weapon. I don't know how feel about that. I think those should just be kept on the weapon, honestly, if you're going to have a magic system like this one.
It's okay. They're crappy bracers because they take up your bracer slot and only work twice a day.
That being the issue, yeah, it takes up your bracer slot.
It's not an issue. You're not going to use these.
Yeah, that's true too, but... I don't know, what else are you putting in your bracer slot? As a melee combatant?
I'll find something.
Yeah. There probably is something, but it's like, it's not as apparent. If it was gloves, I'd say, yeah, you're absolutely fucking not using these. You're using dex gloves, possibly. I mean, not with this one, but strength is gloves as well, or
No, belt of giant strength.
belt of giant strength. That's right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's not one of the stat items or anything. The only thing there is braces of armor, but you're probably wearing actual armor. So, let's see. And yeah, Chrono Charm here, which also there's a couple of these that is basically like it takes up a slot, but you can actually throw multiple of the same thing here. So like here, you can have a Chrono Charm of the Celestial Wanderer, of the Celestial Wanderer, of the Horizon Walker. There's a bunch more of them, but yeah, it is basically like a slot that holds a bunch of different tricky magic items. There's at least another one of these, and this is where I stopped, because after C, this was mostly all I needed to just demo the merits of the system and how a bunch of the miscellaneous 3.5 magic items work in general, because there's plenty of great magic items in here, by the way. If you are scouting for ideas, this is a great chapter that goes on from pages 67 to 148 and is just filled with magic items that range the entire spectrum. There's a shit ton of magic items in here. And I'll say most of them are more useful than not, honestly. In a strange way, this can be one of the funnest parts of character building as well, because if you like to find a bunch of diamonds in the rough that fit your character. I'm more a mechanical build guy, so this stuff is very much in my jam. But at the same time, man, is the presentation just not great? Everything is in alphabetical order. So if you're trying to find boots, well, the bright side, boots will stuff is usually labeled boots of insert the blank, but that's not going to get all the boots in the chapter. There will sometimes be some in random ass spots.
Yeah, can't have it be easy.
Yeah,
it would have been nice if they had like an index of this slot. Here's a list of everything that's.
It would have been nice.
Oh, they have that.
If it was instead, here's the boots section. Here's the bracer section. Here's the.
So it has a list like that?
Yeah, in fairness, in the back they do actually have lists like that with abbreviated with summaries of what the item does. Unfortunately, summaries of what an item does in 3.5 is by no means anything resembling accurate half the time. So I do not trust a summary whenever they write it. They're usually leaving something out, or sometimes it just writes an outright lie. I have no idea what the fuck happened with Weapon Mastery. Also of note, a lot of these pictures I have not seen before. There's only 2 of these books that, as far as I can tell, that we haven't gone through. So they actually did a decent amount of new art for this book, as far as I could tell. Unless I'm like delusional and didn't remember some of these. But yeah, this book is a lot more artful than I'm giving it credit for because of the nature of how we're doing this. Let's see. But yeah, moving on to chapter 4, tools. As in the stuff you don't wear, except when you do. Starting with the miscellaneous magic items, starting with the miscellaneous magic items that do stuff. These are more just for example than anything else, but like bags are basically in this category. So here's a bag of boulders. This does exactly what it fucking sounds like. It's a charged magic item, but it doesn't take up a slot. So yeah. These are where magic items get really kind of strange to me, is when it's like, oh, this is a magic item that at least is an activated effect, kind of, but at the same time, so are all the ones that are actually clothing. So what the hell's the difference at that point? Like, I wonder why even the limitation on that. Why don't we just... And in fairness, this is something that's partially solved in 5th edition with attunement, which is... If you don't know what attunement is and you're playing 5th edition, it's not generally going to come up unless the DM is throwing a shit ton of magic items at you. But you can only actually have a certain number of magic items attuned to a character. I think it's like 3 or something. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. In our current campaign, we have like 1. So it's not... maybe 2 on some characters. It's like this... And not all magic items even need attunement. But they're a lot rarer in 5th edition. That's by design. 5th edition is not designed to have a bunch of... The characters don't glow in the dark and have like 14 magic items on them, but you could easily have something like that. In 3.5, it's pretty much expected for characters to have a rather large amount of magic items, because otherwise the math of the game basically crushes everyone alive unless they're a caster.
Yep.
But yeah, other things in these slots is like droughts, which again, it's potions basically, but sometimes they have more interesting ideas. Yeah, these are domain droughts, which you drink that. That's right. You gain access to a domain for 24 hours, which is neat, but they're not cheap enough to really use that much. Banner of the Storm's Eye here. Magic banners are very much a thing and are almost their own kind of pseudo magic item slot as well. Because it's like, oh, I put a banner on my lance, so unless I'm like dual wielding lances, I'm going to have one banner, or something like that. Or on a flagpole I just stuck on my back, or whatever it really freaking requires. Also, magic instruments. These are very much for the bard and for the bard. They're technically, some of them are specifically for a bard, some of them are more like, okay, you make a perform check and it does something like the drums of marching here. And also like other miscellaneous tool magic items like the hammer sphere here, which is just an ability you can pull out of your pocket here. Like, you cast spiritual weapon. I'd also be remiss not to say that there are magic rods in here. We've seen them before, but yeah. I didn't even bother putting an example here. We know what magic rods do by now. They apply magic feats to spells. Yeah. Also, they reprinted Psychoactive Skin here, which is another... This is a slot, but it isn't at the same time, because it doesn't actually take up any slot on the body or anything. You can technically wear as many Psychoactive Skins as you want, but only one of them is at a time. You can take a standard action to change between them. I believe this one over here, I misspoke when I was looking at it, when we're looking at it in Complete Arcane, or not Complete Arcane, in Complete Psionic. Because I think this is the activated. Yeah, this is the one that minimizes something that's about to hit you. It actually activates as an immediate action. In a related note, that was because I was looking over the old wording, which I think the activation was like a 4-sentence paragraph for some fucking reason, and it was just talking about how to change between one skin and another. It's like, oh wait, no, that's yeah. But yeah, this is just a great, like, here's 10k, and 3 times per day when you get hit with a spell, you could say, nah, I just take minimum damage. Just quite nice.
I swear that looks like a DC villain.
Right,
Spellbinder from Batman Beyond.
Yeah, it's not that far off now that you mention it. So the claws.
Except for the claws, but the spiral pattern on him.
Yeah. Also in here, rune staffs. They're also going on over in the rules. I believe these were from something else because earlier, but I don't exactly remember where they came from offhand. So they let you spend your spell slots to cast spells on the staff using your abilities instead of the magic item's usual default crappy stats. Basically, if you have this rune staff of enchantment, you can spend whatever spell slot it is or higher to cast like Crushing Despair, for example. It will use your DCs and your caster level and everything. They generally have... Yeah, they generally have a limit, so each of these spells you can only do that with 3 times per day. That's not really much of a limit, honestly. But yeah, it is a way of basically throwing money to get more, a bigger toolbox of spells, basically. And that's kind of the thing when it comes to magic items for casters. After a certain point, you're kind of just looking for something to do with the money. There's not a... You got like bracers of armor, you got whatever stat item you need for your to increase your DCs, and then it's like, do you want some meta magic rods? Do you want a rune staff because you're trying to fill like a hole in your spell list that you can't figure out how to fill? Something like that. Or the DM just... It's also a decent loot for the DM to throw out like a sorcerer, for example. Because just giving him spells that he doesn't have access to because sorcerers are kind of spell starved. Or...
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah. When it comes to like the pure casters, they generally run pretty quickly out of stuff to buy, because the magic item system, especially when it comes to weapons and armors, is more oriented towards like the martial characters, and by extension, the clerks use the same stuff anyways, because the clerks they're decent. You usually build you can build a cleric as a pure caster, but they also work fairly well as a martial character. And the druid, I don't fucking know. It is. You want the wisdom item, I guess, and everything else is practically taken up by wild shape.
Yep.
Yep. Might do armor. That's about it. Okay. And magic item sets, which are that thing you find in video games where wearing multiple items from the same set gives you an extra bonus. The flaw here is the bonuses are minor, and I don't think there is a set with more than one good magic item in it. That is the entirety of my review for this. It's like, do you want to wear 2 pieces of this? I don't even want to wear 1 piece of this. It's like, oh, here's a +2 strength item that I'm going to replace at a certain point with a +4 strength item, so then 3 times per day I can treat my attack as adamantite if that fucking matters. If I get 2 of these, I get a +2 to initiative. This is probably one of the better bonuses for 2 slots. That's the sad part of it. Yeah, more examples here. It's like 5 virtues here. Like, I get 2 pieces. It's +1 to will saves. EP. There's 2 pieces here that I actually want to use. That's a good question in of itself. And I got all 5 pieces. Adjacent allies all gain +1 AC. Yay! That's worth 45 pieces of this, right? Right?
Right?
Okay, now here's a fun one. It's not good either, but it is actually just thematically neat, because the veils are... This is literally the 7 different prismatic veils. Strangely enough, in spite of the bead veils, they're all on a different body slot. Because that's how magic items work. And I will give them credit, at least the 7-piece bonus is something. Spontaneously cast all of these spells. So these are not like the other, like, Cone of Cold, Daylight, Disintegrate. Magic Missile. Really bouncing between the spell levels here, but
I mean, to be fair, the prismatic spray effects really bounce between effects.
It does too, but it's usually better than Magic Missile.
When you go from 20 fire damage to 80 electric damage,
Yeah,
to death to sent to another plane.
Okay, and chapter 6 here, magic item rules, which we've already touched on a bit. So let's talk about identifying them. Right, so talks about identifying them real fast. In this edition, there's detect magic for if you suspect that's a spell, that's a cantrip. So it generally takes up, roughly speaking, on wizards, probably most or all their cantrip slots. I think the only other thing that competes with it really is Mage Hand in this edition, unless you really want to do a D3 acid damage, for fucking reasons. I don't know. But that is the most likely how you're going to figure out that you have a magic item, and then you figure out that what the magic item does by skill checks, cast identify, whatever, just figure it out. Honestly, how much I can understand it if it's something you actually want to be really special about trying to identify and make it obtuse as a magic item. But when it comes to just the routine, okay, you found loot and basically you don't get to identify what the loot does until you have enough downtime. I can kind of get that, but at the same time, this is probably one of the most hand-wave things after a while, is figuring out what the magic items you just found did. Like, if you're trying to figure them out immediately, that's one thing, but if it's like, okay, and now we're traveling back to town, okay, it's this, and this, don't worry about it, type of thing. Especially if the wizard happens to have identify in his spellbook, because that's really all you need. Alternatively, everyone just tries to make a, like, spellcraft check in order to figure out what the fuck this does. But honestly, how far you want to go with this, I don't know. Really depends from playgroup to playgroup. And again, if you have a magic item that you actually want to, like, this is a magic item, but you have no idea what it is. It's not an artifact because it's all detecting it. That is the other thing. Artifacts don't actually detect as magic, just to be funny. Meteor. But now I think about it, could make for some extra funny artifacts where it's just like, here's this perfectly ordinary spoon. It's like one of those powerful artifacts in existence, but it's a fucking spoon. So why would you suspect it's anything? But leaving that aside, you could, if you want to make something that was purposely hard to detect because it's just a plot thing, that could be interesting. But yeah, beyond that. Let's see. Also goes over these rules again, including all the new and old stuff. Past this section is like the relics, augment crystals, rune stats. We already talked about that. Also, here's the swift and immediate actions. It's almost a good guessing game. Where in this 3.5 book do they put the description of swift and immediate actions? Sometimes it's in the front. Sometimes it's on page 220. If you don't know what swift and immediate actions are and you bought this book, I can't help you.
There are limits, you know?
Yeah. It's like, if this is your first 3.5 book, why is this your first 3.5 book? I honestly want to know. Or technically it'd be like, I don't know, fourth, assuming you bought like the basic 3 books, but if this is the one you got immediately after the basic 3 books,
Yes, I bought the basic 3 books. Player's Handbook, Monster Manual 3, Dungeon Master's Guide 2, and then immediately jumped into Magic Item Compendium.
I see my DM banned the Player's Handbook, so...
Okay.
Let's see. Also, item levels, which is basically a quick system for equipping characters, quick by the standards of 3.5. If you noticed way back here for a second, in a lot of the descriptions, they'll actually have an item level next to the cost here. This does not matter for literally anything but this item level system, which is just basically, here's the amount of like level 2 items and 2 level 1. It's basically, instead of actually buying things specifically, NPCs should be equipped with this many of these levels of magic items, or less, I guess, technically, type of thing, as just a quick way of doing that. There was also a table for PCs, which, honestly, that's almost harder than actually just buying magic items to try and... Because I have to actually figure out what level every magic item is and then how many slots I have. Just give me cash. I'll probably end up with less magic items if you give me cash. Because it does, like, span outward, so it's like, at a certain point, you have to have, like, 7 or 8 magic items. It's like, okay, I'm probably not going to remember that. Also, character wealth by level in another place besides the DM's guide on a random page that we memorized a long time ago and I forgot. At least it's somewhere else. Also expanded for Epic for some fucking reason.
Yay.
You really want to make that level 30 character. At least it doesn't go to the nth. Yes. Buy and sell magic items. Yes, also placing magic items, because this actually discusses a little bit placing loot for players, and that's kind of another interesting idea, or interesting topic there for a second. Like, actually giving out magic items as loot, I mean, it's fun. 100% is fun, but it's kind of weird at the same time when it's like, just because of how specific magic items kind of are in D&D, some things are more generic, like a cloak of resistance, a cloak of resistance, whatever. But when it comes to like a weapon for a character, especially if it's even worse than like this edition where you're going to have like weapon focus and weapon specialization for a specific weapon. And even sometimes in 5th edition, there's feats like polearm mastery, so that character is specifically going to want polearms. Like, how much do you custom tailor the weapons? How much do you custom tailor the armor to the characters? Or do you at all? Should we just say fuck it and everything should just be crystals that you snap onto armor?
Well, okay, you say that. I don't envision like a separate system or anything, but like maybe like a kind of homebrewish kind of thing where you focus more on like charms and stuff that the players pick up and collect and stuff that do the modular effects versus equipment and stuff. If you like center a campaign around it, could be interesting.
Yeah,
Give me
that's
my
true
materia.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically materia, but materia was a fun system.
Yeah. I also thought it would be kind of fun, because especially for 3.5, where magic items really are kind of baked into the cake of the character of how powerful they roughly should be. If you actually kind of knew what you already were going to have at the next level, or you figured out what your character would have at the next level as far as like weapon and armor wise is, and the DM kind of knew that in advance, what your future shopping list is, as kind of like a wish list to Santa, and just in a dungeon randomly one of those might appear. Who knows? If you explore the right nook or cranny, and if it doesn't, you get when you level up. Anyways, but
One of the things that Pathfinder did, the Pathfinder Adventure modules, some pre-made things, similar like we talked about the Bastion of Broken Souls, Bastion Down, all that jazz.
Yeah.
They did actually do a thing oftentimes in those where it's like, hey, when your party's going through XYZ area, like, oh, they're going to find this barbarian tomb. In our text, we say the barbarian was buried with like his great axe. But if a member of your party who would be using a melee weapon really uses like a sword, it's perfectly fine to change this item out for a sword.
Yeah.
If they use XYZ type weapon, it's perfectly fine to change the loot we have planned here as a specific thing to something that matches what your party will actually use.
Yeah. And in and of itself, for modules, that's probably just a good idea in general. Is to...
But like that should go the same way when you're generating loot for like the party.
Yeah.
If you're going to be like, oh, they're going to go through this place. Hey, yeah, there's a couple things they may not necessarily use, but oh, look at that. Your character who uses a greatsword. Well, there's happens to be like a +1 flaming greatsword in this treasure trove.
Yeah.
How fortuitous.
Or your wizard picks up this +3 spell strike dagger because I'm tired of him failing fucking saves and doing nothing for the rest of combat. Let's see. Yes, beyond that. Goes over the rules again, and yeah. Crafting magic items here goes over the rules again, including or no wait, I'm out of spot on this. Crafting magic items was included important. Yes, it includes this important and official what can be added to what slot for how much table that is official and you can do. They literally say these are new official rules. Fucking use them.
Nope,
I'm actually
can't do it.
I'm actually surprised they didn't put it in bold text. But yeah, this is a nicer thing in here. It's like, okay, here's what body slots this would kind of be appropriate for. So deflection bonuses are usually on rings, or the ring of deflection is where you normally get a deflection bonus. But you can also put it on like the body slot, or the shoulder slot. Flat AC bonus is appropriate both on the arms and the body slot again. And these can just be added to existing magic items already. So, yeah, back to that whole like, hey, this is a neat throat item. Do you want a wisdom bonus on that neat throat item? Because you can just add the cost. Just like here, 4k for a +2, 16 for a +4, 36 for a plus. These are cumulative, by the way. 36 for a +6. And you also get that trinkety effect that you wanted. Like, you get to reroll a save once per day. Go nuts. It's just that. You just add the two together. Math. Or alternatively, you can throw it on like a head thing. If you really want to, for whatever reason. But yeah, this was basically their industrial strength duct tape to fix the issue of sometimes I want a very specific effect, but it happens to go on a slot that corresponds with something I really need my enhancement
like
bonus
critical for my class.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, just fucking duct tape them together. It's fine. Just add this cost to that cost. Done.
Yeah, and they do the thing like throughout there where they do add extra slots for every stat item.
Yeah.
So it's like rather than having to have the periaptive wisdom, hey, look, you can also get wisdom item on heads.
Yeah. You can have
like a headband of wisdom equivalent.
Yes. Bonnet of wisdom.
my cowl of faith.
My boots of charisma. Look at those shoes. They're amazing.
What were the other charisma slots? I mean, the base one is cloak, so also head.
Yeah, head. Also, notably, you can't add all the corresponding ones together. I think all of the mental ones can be head. So if you want to, yes, all the mental ones can be head, and all of the physical ones I think can be waist or torso. No, they can be. Wait, where's their common one for that? Strength is, strength con. Where's Dex?
Dex doesn't get waist, but Dex does get feet, hands, feet, and arms.
Arms. Yeah, so there's no arms. Yeah, so there's no common slot for the 3 on that one.
No, for the mental stats, they can all be on head, and they all have then shoulders, neck, and they add face to it, intelligence items.
Heads and shoulders, knees and toes. Knees and
Knees
toes.
and toes.
Yep. Also, I don't know what the appropriate number of magic item slots is. 12 is too much. I will just say 12 is probably too much.
Or not enough. Give me extra arms.
Good news, there's just fucking random magic items like Psychoactive Skin that are basically their own extra fucking slot of their own. Also, you can have any number of bags that fucking make boulders if you really want.
Ooh, good.
And yeah, magic items by price. This goes on for starts at 235, goes to 254, unsurprisingly. Appendix 2, Random Treasure, again, goes on for quite a while. And finally, the back of the book. Yep, there are magic items. There are a lot of magic items.
There is, in fact, more items than you can fit in a bag of holding. Yep. That is true.
More items than your body has room for.
Yeah, you may have noticed the page count on this book, and it's like... This is actually a fairly beefy accessory. It's honestly like one of the more worthwhile books if you're playing 3.5, because magic items are a much bigger part of the 3.5 system, especially when you're making characters past the first level, than it is for 5th edition, where they are pretty much on the purview of the GM, give or take. Like, it's generally recommended that melee get like magic weapons, but beyond that, it's everything is more or less in the optional category in 5th ed. But yeah, in 3.5, like, magic item shopping was a very big part of our character building always, because, well, the math was just made it kind of necessary. And honestly, when you make a lot of characters and play the game for quite a bit, if you're trying to spice up what you're doing, there is a lot of room to spice up what you're doing when it comes to magic items in 3.5. It is something I sort of actually miss. On the other hand, this is really fucking excessive.
There are two sides. It's like, yeah, it's nice to have all these different options. At the same time, God, there are so many options.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be as bad if it was like, God, there are so many options, but it's all just like weird trinkety stuff that doesn't really matter. This is, God, there's so many options, and because these provide so much of the bonuses my character needs to function, if I don't do this right, my character is trash.
Yeah. Like, I don't want fully this system back, but I would sell for like a good like 20%. Like, I think 20% is a nice number on that. It's like 20% of the way. I just really want like the trinkety stuff that spices up characters. The like stuff where if I want like either if I want the extra cognitive load, or maybe just like flat numbers that don't go too insane with breaking the bounded accuracy system, stuff like that. Yeah, just little things. Like, there's a Cloak of Resistance, for example, in 5th edition. It just adds +1 to your saves. You're moving a number on your character sheet. You do not have to remember a damn thing on that. Bograt actually has one on his character. Yeah. Like, little things like that. But at the same time, it's like, I also like the neat trinkety items, just in general. I like being able to have this, like, thing that lets me reroll saves once per day on my neck. It's cool. I also absolutely I absolutely do miss building magic weapons, because that was just fucking fun.
Like that is why when I gave you guys your items in 3.5, I gave each of them a Like, here's a couple charges to do X thing on them.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, okay, you guys wanted a like bonus, here's your +1 item. Or here's like your +1 weapon.
Yeah. But yeah, and yeah, in general, I also just like this book. By the way, it is just a giant book of ideas.
Yeah.
If you are looking for various effects and sundries for whatever the hell you're doing, especially be it just magic items or just ideas in general, this is an idea goldmine. This book is just full of fun stuff. Not even just for magic items, like if you were just looking for a thing that can happen in an RPG that has dice and math and stuff, it's like you can get ideas from this.
Yep.
It is a bunch of spice.
Yeah.
But yeah, beyond that, that's pretty much all I have to say on this book. Anyone else got anything else?
I like it. It gives you tons of, like, effectively, because the base class is such trash in 3.5.
Yeah.
And your goal is to get into a prestige class quickly as possible. And even the prestige classes aren't terribly, like, they let you do other stuff, but this actually feels like it gives a lot more flavor to what your character can do when you're getting into the stuff that is a bunch of trinkety type stuff, as opposed to like your standard like +2 to a stat or +1 save. That feels like it gives you as much, if not more, character options than a class does in the game. So there's a lot of build space for just adding flavor to a character in the piles and piles of magic items that are available. So it's a great book to have.
Yeah. And granted, this is probably one of the most honestly player-oriented books. Like, the DM will get some use out of this. This is much more for the players, honestly. Because it is just it is the giant Costco of magic items.
Yeah, like, this is a fantastic book for the players to have when you're building, like, make 6th level characters, 5th level characters, whatever. You have a little pile of money to work with and just kind of go nuts looking at all the different options you can throw on a character. Like, it's nice for a DM to have, for be like, okay, I'm going to give you guys some loot, but God, most time you don't want to go through a book that big as a DM to pick out 2 or 3 pieces of loot for everyone. Especially when, like, hey, just, give them money and let them go shopping at a certain point.
Yeah.
Grab the stuff they want for their character.
Yeah. The biggest issue this has, as I kind of said already, is presentation. Presentation is not the best because it's a giant list of alphabetical stuff, but still. Like, yeah. But yeah, that is pretty much this book. So let's move on to the next thing. So we will be right back.